This is Matt Brown, and you're listening to Just a Good Conversation. My buddy Paul Lester is a pro's pro. For over 50 years, he's been walking the golf course, making photos of some of the greatest golfers to ever play the game. We met 30 years ago at the Dinah Shore Tournament in Palm Springs. And for over 30 years, I've never met anybody to have a bad word to say about Paul. We talk about getting into the business, his new book, Beyond the Fairway, and of course, some great old golf stories that may or may not get him into trouble.
I wished I would have known. I mean, I think the one thing that they'll always tell me, and I make a good living, I love it, I probably didn't charge enough. That's always been the thing with I know other guys. And then we got together with people like some of our other shooters and we talked about it. We've got to establish these prices. We can't have us trying to make, just say, $500 and then there's somebody else doing the same job trying to go for $200. You know, it's just going to kill all of us. So we all made a little pact on that.
I'm Matt Brown, host of Just a Good Conversation. Take a listen to my archives. My guests have ranged from professional baseball players, chefs, and photojournalist and author Christina Salvador Cleanse.
So I had a Leica M6 and a Leica M3, and so I used both of those. I felt like I was less obtrusive, and nobody would take me seriously because the camera was so small. Nobody knew its value. It was quiet, and it just, I think being a left-eyed shooter, it just fit my body better because it was small. And I don't know, I can't really explain why it was different, but I think that changed my shooting a little bit.
The rest of my conversation with Christina can be heard at the archives at justagoodconversation.com. Let's take a quick break for a sponsor before diving into my conversation with Paul Lester. When I joked about being on the 19th hole, I didn't really think I would be at one for this podcast.
That's right.
I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to just tell all my former guests, this is absolutely the best view I've had in all 100 episodes I've done.
Wow.
Paul, how are you doing?
Thank you so much, Matt. I wanted to make sure that you saw looking out at the golf course. I see a lot of them, so that's okay, but I want to make sure you were looking. It is beautiful, and just to let them know, we are at Brentwood Country Club.
Yes, Brentwood Country Club.
In Brentwood, California.
This is gorgeous.
It is really nice. They've done a great job out here. It's they've had a lot of, Ben Hogan's and people like that have played here, successful tournaments. Don't have too many outside PGA type tournaments, but it's a great club. I mean, they have tennis and they have pools and they have, everything. It really is a country club.
Yeah.
And a nice golf course.
So if you hear the kitchen or the people walking by or someone yelling for, honestly, we are on the golf course.
Yes.
This is the first location podcast I've ever done.
Right. I'm glad you made it. I mean,
this view is stunning.
Yeah.
My God. I might just zone out during the podcast and just watch these guys miss these shots.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable.
It is nice. I've been here working today, actually, and so, it was great. And I said, shoot, we're here.
Cookies, I got cookies, I got soda. My God, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a good country clubs. That's why I've done it for 50 years. I decided this would be a good deal.
This is unbelievable.
Anyway,
you're
thanks
a Valley,
for having me.
Yes, absolutely. You're a Valley kid. You grew up in the Valley, right?
I did. San Fernando Valley. I sure did.
How was that?
In Sherman Oaks. Oh, it was great. I loved it. Van Nuys Junior High School, Van Nuys High School, the whole bit there was fantastic. Our elementary school, I still see the same friends that I grew up with are still with me all the time. I see them now that I've moved to officially Augusta, Georgia. I really still come here all the time My daughter Jillian's here. Most of our business is here. Most of it comes out of here when I travel from here. But 23 years ago, I met my other half, Brenda, who's born and raised there, when I was covering the Masters. And that took care of that. So I just tell people I'm a good old boy from Van Nuys, which is kind of funny.
How was the Valley pretty quiet growing up back then when you were a kid?
Not really. I mean, back on Van Nuys Boulevard, we had all the cruisers, we had all the low riders, the high riders. We had every kind of car there was. We had the home of Bob's Big Boy. We had everything. So no, I wouldn't say it was quiet. Now, if you start going out to the west end of the valley, that was quiet.
Okay.
That was orange fields before they built a billion homes and golf courses and freeways. But you're right. The actual valley where I was pretty going pretty well.
Okay.
Pretty strong.
And you grew up, with a very famous father. I mean, you had a foot in Hollywood.
I did.
Did you realize that as a kid? When did you start to kind of take that in?
I kind of knew it. My dad was Buddy Lester, and he was part of the Rat Pack, stand-up comedian, the Jerry Lewis movies. I guess I really realized it. I was born in 1949, so in 1960, the Rat Pack was made.
Right.
And, the Ocean's 11 movie. And I got to go down and take my dad to the airport, and that's when I saw Frank Sinatra and these guys. I'm going, well, I guess my dad is connected. That is pretty cool. So, yeah, I was very close to him, very, very tight with him, and my mom. So I knew all about it all the way around. And just to jump into it, that's how it started with me. He played in many of the celebrity golf tournaments. And when I first got out of school, I thought, I want to be in the movie business. And I was going to try that. And my dad said, well, I'll get you a job. And at about 17, I started working at Universal Studios. I was a jackhammer operator with a hard hat building sets. I wasn't close to anything. I was like, this is show business? I go, this isn't, really? So I decided, and then.
How long did that last?
2 summers.
Oh.
About 2 summers,
you
maybe.
Put in
because the summer's only 2 months, or 3 months before school started. But then I decided that I wanted to, be in some type of motion picture or still photos. So I got a hold of a Mamiya C3, at that time, a SRT 101, sorry.
Wow.
The original film camera that Minolta made. And I started shooting it.
Where'd you get it from?
I think I actually bought it.
Okay.
I think I bought it, and so I owned this thing, and then all of a sudden I started shooting pictures with it, and then my dad, he goes, why don't you bring your, as he called it, the box out to, why don't you bring your box out to some of these celebrity golf tournaments? And that's how it started.
How old were you then? 18, 19?
Yeah, maybe 17.
What did you
18?
shot before that? Just high school stuff, whatever you could?
Once that started, that's when I started doing, I started not even still photos. On Friday nights, I did Taft High School. And on Saturday nights, I did San Fernando Valley State College football.
Shooting their video?
Shooting their video, and there wasn't video.
Right, 8mm film?
8mm film on Friday night. Not Super 8, 8mm. It was hysterical then, but we did go up to 16mm when we shot regular with an Aeroflex 16mm for the Saturday night, the college.
Would they put you like in a cherry picker?
Exactly. You must have been there with me, Matt. They put me in this thing, and okay, up a little higher. That's not high enough. Up a little higher. Now on Friday nights, there was no cherry picker. I climbed up the 50-foot light pole in the middle of the 50-yard line light pole,
right,
as high as I could in a little basket up there in November. Now, thank God we were in the valley, so it wasn't like we were in Idaho, but it was cold. It was blowing. I'm like, oh boy. And then they said, come on down for halftime to get a sandwich or a hot dog. I said, no thanks. I'll just stay up here till I have to come down.
Oh my God.
That's exactly how it went.
That was obviously pre-OSHA and, someone watching over you with a safety belt. You were just up there.
You were just up there. They didn't care.
Holy Mother of
And,
God.
and all you were trying to do was get the angle. And then a couple of times with the Saturday night motion picture stuff, I get it all right, and I thought everything was perfect. And I thought, well, I'll take a look, and I got, and then I would open up the back of it a little bit, like to change film or something. And it's like, sometimes it didn't work exactly perfect. You remember the word spaghetti?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, how am I going to tell the coach this one? Then we would run the film. At that time, they processed the film up in San Luis Obispo.
Up
and
there?
You would run it to the Greyhound bus. The Greyhound bus would take it to them in the middle of the night. They had a company up there that processed the film, shot it back on the Greyhound bus, and the coaches would pick it up at like the mobile station on the corner. I swear to you. To look at the film on Sunday morning or Saturday morning of their game. These coaches, these high school coaches were, it's like the Super Bowl. They couldn't wait to get and see their game film, and that's how we did it for years.
How much did you get paid?
I got paid $75, I think it was a game.
That's good money.
It might have been $75 a month now that I think about it.
That's still good money.
It was good.
I
I got a free hot dog and scared the heck out of me. But what a way to start. And that's how it started. Because, no matter what you shoot, you still have to light it, frame it, focus it.
Right.
Those three things have to all be together to make a photo. You might have the greatest, as you know, what a pro I'm talking to here, folks. Believe me, the best. And, if you shoot the greatest shot and you look at it and you're two stops under, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's
or
done.
Soft.
Yeah.
Now, nowadays, you can almost save it. But in the days when we started shooting slide film,
Nope. Done.
C41, you had nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Two stops over on that
yeah,
sand,
that's right.
It's gone.
You were done.
Done.
So if you can get the three of them together, then it's the best picture.
When you're working with your dad and you're doing the jackhammer bit and you're like, I'm not doing this. My back is not going to make it the rest of my career.
Right.
Were you thinking, okay, I'm out of Hollywood, like this is just not for me? Or did you look at anything else like cinema?
Here's what I really didn't, because when he said bring that camera to the golf tournament, all I thought about was this is a way to make a living.
Okay.
The first thing was, wow, okay, here's what I did. And you won't believe this was cool. I figured, okay, I got to find a way. Now, I'm doing the Steve Garvey, Steve Yeager, the tournaments, these celebrity golf tournaments where the guys would pay to play in the tournaments, a small amount in those days.
Right.
I'm talking $75 entry fee, and they're playing with, the greatest players in the world.
Hall of Famers.
Hall of Famers to play 18 holes. So we would set up, and we literally had like a menu board, a sandwich board, and we put on there, such and such golf course, the blah, blah, blah golf tournament, and the year, 1975, And we would set this sign up, and as they came to the hole, we would say, okay, the celebrity, would you please get in the middle? The other guys get around. We'd shoot the picture, a simple group photo. And if you would like the photo, could you please put $5 in the envelope and put your name and address on the envelope? So, these guys, they couldn't wait to do it.
Sure.
So they'd come, and then by the end of the day, if there was 100 players, and I would give $1 back to the charity. So it's just 100 players, and they all paid, I made $400. That was great.
That's great money.
But then I had to print them 5x7, put them in a little folder and mail them to them. And on the upper right corner of the envelope was the exposure number. So now, and then I'm out there with a light table and the negatives trying to, okay, this is this one, so these go with this guy. Now, if you messed one up, if you didn't send the right one, the guy would call me, Paul, this is a great photo, but it's not me. And now it's going down the line. Everybody got the wrong photo. I'm telling you, it was funny, but it was like, oh my God, it was nightmares. And at the same time, I'm on the tour doing the tour stuff. So I'm in the middle of, shooting Chichi Rodriguez in Houston, Texas, and I get a phone or a message or whatever in those days, and they, Mrs. Jones got the wrong photo of that tournament you did, 2 weeks ago down in Orange County or something. And you're like, oh no. So
I got to find Mrs. Jones now and these negs.
I got to make her happy. She paid $5.
What year is this? What year did you start doing that?
73, 74.
How challenging was that with, you're shooting film? I mean,
Well, that's one thing that we kind of sort of talk about, that shooting the film on getting the prints made on that type of thing was okay. And then I'll tell you how it progressed. But when you're doing a pro tournament of any type, we started with the LPGA. Anybody at all started with the LPGA that's been in this business forever. The LPGA was amazing how big and awesome it was in those days. It was the best tour there was. There was no Champions or Senior Tour.
No.
So they were great. So that was the problem. Okay, so now you're ready. You think you've got 2 cameras, and how fast a 36 exposure roll goes.
Right,
real fast. And all of a sudden you're about ready to get the winner shot and you run out of film. And how fast can you change film? And rewind it back first, and then open it back, and then don't open it till you rewind it all.
Right.
It's just a whole deal.
Right. Did you label your film too, like a +1 or a +quarter if you were doing slide, or what was your process back then?
That's very interesting. I don't know. I think we did. I think you're right. But
because I had to do that. I had a Sharpie with me. It was like the most important thing. And if I was shooting 200 and I had to push one,
you knew
push a quarter.
Yeah, you knew that exposure wouldn't work.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So when you're shooting pictures like that, you're exactly right. But then, as those tournaments went on, I would get them, and then they started charging more money for the tournaments that we did. So as they charged more, we stopped the $5 bit, and they became included in the entry fee.
Okay.
Oh, you got a nice picture. So then we would still shoot film, but we would find the 1 hour photo at every course we went to.
Oh my.
1 hour photo. I call them ahead of time. Hey, we're coming down. We're in town for this guy's tournament.
I'm going to dump a bunch of film on you.
I'm going to dump some film. I need 100% 5x7s. Get them back to me as quick as you can, and then we'd lay them out. Of course, one of the classics was you're dealing with some guy's mom and pop store, and then you're all running. You get your photos taken. You split as fast as you can to the place, and there's a sign on there, "My dog got sick. We're closed today." You're dying.
Middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere. So, now what do? Now you go run somewhere else to try and find yourself just any way you can to get those pictures.
Where's the vet to get that dog?
That's right. Gosh darn it. Why didn't you call me? Then it rolled into digital. Well, I know we're getting up there.
Right.
But when it became digital, then we bought these printers. I take them everywhere. I've got a case. I can throw it on a next stop Korea, which I've been, and just plug it in and it knocks it out while you're sitting there, and then they come out a lot better.
Yeah, see, if somebody would have told Paul in 75 that you'd be having these, cases that make prints for you, you'd have said, no way in hell.
It took me a while to even do the digital. My guys that work with me, they were way into it. I'm sure you were way ahead of even me. I would say the first one I did was at about 1999 or 2000 Skins game, and somebody loaned me a camera. The old one with the Nikon. Let's see, it was the Nikon body and the Kodak.
Yeah, Kodak.
It was something like that.
Just
huge.
Yeah, monster.
A monster. And I goofed up. I think I got one photo out of every 4. That was right.
It had the delay. It had the crop factor. It was god awful.
You had to learn it. So. But that was when I went, wow, this is kind of cool. I can look at it, and that was the big deal. Like I tell the guys that work with me and myself, if you goof it up now, just find something else to do. Because, you could look on the back, and the guy closes his eyes. Oh, can we get another one? In those days, we didn't know the guy closed their eyes or what it looked like until we got them back.
We had a lot of faith back then that we got it, because if we didn't know until we got the film back.
And then you'd have to send it in like you guys, and like I have always been pretty much on the corporate end of things, like where we are right now.
Right. This was a corporate job today.
I'm lucky enough to have the Brentwood account. So if they have events, they call me. So I've never really been one to do magazines.
Right.
Oh, you get paid by the photo and all that. I always thought, like I said, when I started it, I wanted it to be a business. I thought, you know what, if I'm going to do it, this is what I'm going to do. And I've never really had another job.
Where did you get early on business sense to understand like how much you needed to make money and charge clients and then expenses?
I wished I would have known. I mean, I think the one thing that they'll always tell me, and I make a good living, I love it, I probably didn't charge enough. That's always been the thing with, I know other guys. And then we got together with people like, of course, you working big time, but some of our other shooters, and we talked about it, we've got to establish these prices. We can't have us trying to make, just say, $500, and then there's somebody else doing the same job trying to go for $200.
Right.
You know, it's just going to kill all of us. So we all made a little pact on that.
Did that work out, making that pact, or just communicating with other photographers? Like, let's keep the amount high, guys.
I hope they did, but I know a lot of people that didn't, and even myself, because there's the times where I'm like, well, I really want this job.
Right.
So maybe if it's a matter of finances,
I'll
maybe
take a 15,
I could
20%
go a little
off.
less, and then I'd be thinking about these other guys, and I'm like, eh. And then there were guys that just did a living doing, let's say, win ads. And what we talk about win ads would be on the golf end. Let's say the guy wins a golf tournament. Mm-hmm. He has a Titleist hat. He's got a Nike shirt. So they would be there just to shoot the picture of him holding the trophy with a Nike shirt, with the Titleist hat, and he would get paid by them to run those ads.
Right.
All of a sudden, who came along to change it all? It hasn't been those many years. Getty.
Right.
Getty Images got the contract with the PGA Tour. Probably 10 guys I know, that was it. They're
Out of
done.
business.
Out of business.
Done.
Done.
See, that's brutal.
It was. But they can't go buy a picture.
No.
I mean, if someone
Right.
calls me for a picture of, you know, a player now, let's just say, you know, whoever it be, let's say Justin Thomas, unless I'm selling it to them for them to use in their brochure for a tournament that's coming up, that's the only thing, editorial-wise. Any kind of advertising.
Commercial. They got to go through Getty.
Ding. Totally.
Wow.
And pay those prices.
Right. Yeah, that's brutal. That costs a lot of guys, you know,
did.
a job, making a lot of money.
It did.
So you wish earlier on you had a little more business sense, maybe would have helped you quicker in your career?
I would have liked that because I definitely learned as I went along. I never really had much of a plan because there's a lot of things that, like I was telling you earlier, there's a lot of things that go into my business rather than if all I had to do is go out and shoot pictures, it'd be a lot better. But we have 3 steps, the pre-production, getting everything ready, then shooting, it's the easy part basically, and then the post part of it, getting those images to the people.
Right.
Now, the one thing I always loved about you, and like when I first met you, was how you had that setup where you were out there shooting the Angels, and those photos went directly, immediately from your camera out to the world.
Right.
And I always thought, God, that would be very cool. Instead of me having to worry about later, you know, I could do it pretty fast, but, you know, editing them, downloading them, and then transferring them, or however you do it.
Right. It's a lot of work.
But it's a lot better than sending them 200 4x6s like I used to do.
All those
Or all
envelopes.
those slides.
Oh my God.
Remember?
Your mailbox must have just been loaded with postcards
That's
you're ready to send out.
And then it was only like, what was it, 15 cents for a first class?
That's the thing.
Maybe less.
Now it would be cutting
That'd
it.
kill me.
Oh my God.
I'd have to raise it to $6 a picture.
Yeah, because to send it out is probably 55, 60 cents
That's
now.
right. Now I know. I think it just went up.
Oh my
I
goodness.
know. There goes the profit.
Was there ever any point, did you ever look back at Hollywood when your dad was still working thinking maybe I'd want to dive in, or once you got into the 80s,
Well,
you were pretty successful
I was
and not
good
looking
there.
back?
I wouldn't look back. I know one thing, I couldn't do it in front of the camera like he did.
Right.
I got in front of there and froze, you know.
How
I could
fun
do
was-
it, but now I could certainly talk to you and talk all day about this and have a great time. But
How fun was it to have him in the house?
always fun. Always a zinger.
Yeah.
With nothing straight.
Was he the
And-
life of the party every time he went somewhere?
Oh my gosh, yes. And Uncle Jerry, his brother, was the original Tonight Show called Broadway Open House. This is black and white stuff.
Yeah, right? Back in New York?
Way back, exactly. Jerry Lester.
So when those
And
two
it
got together, was it just a party?
there was, you know, without getting too personal about his life and Jerry's, there was a problem there where the brothers didn't see eye to eye for a while.
Shocking, brothers.
I was like, brothers, I didn't even know. I don't know if there's a jealousy thing. Oh, I loved Uncle Jerry, and my dad wasn't going to stop me from that. And then thank God at the end they became friends, and at the wedding he came, and he was great. But he was really whacked out. I mean, he was really nuts. Jerry.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, my gosh. And Buddy, yeah.
That must have been good times, though.
It was great. You know, I mean, comedians are comedians. There are
Right.
times when they're, you know, not happy all the time,
Right.
shall we say.
Yeah.
And that's when you just kind of went the other way. But, and then he got into the, you know, the acting. For some reason, Jack Webb loved him.
Yeah.
And Frank Sinatra. Well, he opened for Frank Sinatra. So
A lot, yeah.
A lot when he was doing the stand-up comedian stuff. And then Frank said, you know, because my dad had that scar on the side of his face. So it was like he played the heavy on all these shows. You know, he was in Dragnet and all these
Right.
old...
All kinds of
all these
Columbo, all
old-
kinds of
yeah.
shows. Where did he get the scar?
Well, that's a classic because, you know, I'm like, where did you get the scar? Well, I had a bunch of stories. One time he got in a fight with a gangster and threw a chair at him, but I wouldn't believe that one. Well, I think the one that I believe, because he used to always freak out like when my kids or the grandkids would walk along with a glass.
Oh.
So supposedly when he was a kid somewhere, he grew up in Chicago, he fell down, the glass broke, and he cut his face.
Yeah.
But I've heard a lot of different ones. Oh, yeah, he always had something.
He had some. Well, I'm sure he's had enough
But
time.
he
with
loved
his-
golf. I mean, he would come home. It was classic. It was a great line. He'd come home, you know, because we were in L.A. He'd go to the driving range with all his buddies. You know, he's got Billy Eckstein one day, Mickey Rooney. These are old names, by the way. And he'd walk in. I got it now. I got it. I worked on that 5-iron. I got the right swing. Every day, he'd go to the driving range when he wasn't working. I got it. And that was the classic. And we would just go, okay, Dad. But that was what really helped me because when I was on the tour, it broke because he would be on these acts. For instance, let's say he was doing his nightclub act in Palm Springs,
Okay.
which they used to have nightclubs. Well, at the same time, the Bob Hope Classic was there. Well, let's say that, you know, anybody from Tommy Bolt to Ben Hogan to, you know, all these Arnold, all these guys were there. And they'd come in at night, of course, and watch him perform.
Right.
And then they'd get up at 8 in the morning, you know, and drink all night. I don't want to say that,
Yeah.
but that's how it was.
Sure.
That's how they partied.
Yeah. And then they dragged their keister around the course.
So when I would go up now, you know, in the 70s or the 80s, I'd go up. I go, by the way, I'm Buddy Lester's kid. I'm Paul Lester. Oh, Buddy, we love Buddy. And then I was in.
See, that's a good in.
I
That's
was
great.
in. You've got to get in one way or the other.
Right.
One of the great ways to get in my business is the caddies.
Okay.
The caddies is number one because if the caddies love you, the players are going to love you. They'll do anything. If the caddies don't like you and you're a jerk or
That
you're
door's
not,
closed.
done.
Done. Not a chance.
They'll just tell them. They'll walk down the fairway. This guy's,
that guy's a
jerk.
jerk,
Don't get
right.
near him. And you're dead.
Yeah.
But by the other way, I mean, a couple of great stories. So I spent a lot of time with caddies. Now, normally, if I'm on the road, they would give me a room in the hotel, you know, just because I was kind of part of the event. But the caddies, they would stay like in those days when they weren't making all the money, they'd be like 4 guys in a room. What? 4 guys in a room.
It's like a dorm.
They're like a dorm. And they would caddy. Now, here's the classic. I'd ask them, I go, how'd you guys do on the room last night? Who got the 2 beds? Who got the other? He goes, the person that they're caddying for, the one that shot the lowest round, got the bed.
So you better
And the
hope
one
you're
that shot the highest round,
on
the floor.
Oh, you better hope your guy's doing well.
And then the next day, same thing. How'd you
Oh, my
shoot today? Oh, God, he went great. He shot a 68. Oh, you get the bed tonight, darn it. My guy blew up, shot 78. He's on the floor.
Yeah, if you ever wondered why that caddy was dragging his ass,
Oh, yeah.
his back was sore from sleeping on the carpet.
I mean, listen, I love these guys. I still love every caddy on every club I
there's two
work
right
at.
there,
they're,
yeah.
they're all my friends. And I've tried to, in my line of work, be the friends with the guys that are on the, I don't want to even call them the bottom, but the guys that are cleaning the dishes.
Right.
All the way up to the director of golf. Because, you know,
They're
that's
the
how you
behind the
get-
scene guys.
That's how you can get a lot of stuff.
That
So-
gives you access.
That's right. So one time I picked one of the caddies up and we're on our way to the golf course. And he goes, Paul, can we stop by McDonald's? I need an orange juice. Okay, sure. We pull through, pulls out a little vodka in the orange juice. Now, I'm talking about, I'm not going to let the, I'm talking about a guy that caddied for the #1 lady golfer in the world in the 70s
Okay.
and 80s. Not nowadays. Because nowadays, if you tried that, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done, you know, and they make so much money,
Oh, they make good money now.
real good money. And you know, it's so funny. I'll be talking to them. Let's just say before the tournament starts, they're waiting for their player in the parking lot. Don't ever be late. Don't ever be late. They are there waiting. Their player will tell them, or they figure 2 hours before their starting time, they'll be there. They go through their routine. The player eats. The player hits on the driving range. And I'll be sitting there talking to them about a baseball game the night before, and they'll see out of the corner of their eye their player got to go. And they will jam it straight over there. And they're always there. They're always waiting for them. And
They're everything to that guy.
they are everything. Guy or girl, they're
Right.
amazing. And
Wow.
they protect them, the girls for sure. Not
Oh,
that
yeah.
these girls need much protection.
But they do
because
step
they're-
in the way. I remember those
Totally.
days. Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the Dinah Shore and stuff like that,
yeah.
where you can get right up on them. Yeah, they definitely step in the way and make sure nobody gets stupid.
I mean, the greatest part, that you could always almost know it's coming. Some of these players and their wife, I mean, their husband was their caddy.
Right. Yes,
you knew
that too.
You knew it was coming. I'm not going to name a big name. I can just tell him she was married to Ray Knight. So, and she's one of my greatest friends ever. They
Yeah.
get into a beef on the third fairway, drops the bag and walks off. Oh yeah, I've seen it happen a bunch of times. Anybody in the crowd want to carry my bag? I am telling you. And some guy goes, sure, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's caddying for the rest of the day.
Yeah, my Mike, how you doing?
Yeah,
He's pulling
good,
8-iron
no
out.
problem. I can do this.
How did the 80s really take off for you? Like
Yes.
that's when you've really got yourself set and you knew where to go and people knew you and the career was
Definitely.
launched.
Without a doubt.
Was
And
there ever a fear? Like, oh my God, if this doesn't work out, what do I do?
No doubt there was times when, you know, because I always remember the first of the year. I don't know if I still get that. But come 1st of January, I'm always wondering, is the phone going to ring? Is anybody going to, you know,
Yeah.
is
Do
this
they
it?
love me?
Does anybody care?
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden, you know, it would start rolling. But the big deal that made my career, made this book that I got lucky enough to do, by the way, was all the special event golf tournaments, like the Skins Games, like the Wendy's 3-Tour
Big
Challenge.
Horn, right?
Like Bighorn,
Yeah.
like Sherwood with Tiger and all that, because I was the only photographer that not only, there are other photographers that did the daytime stuff that were around there. I was the main one, but I did all the night stuff.
Right.
So I was there with their families. I was there with their wives. I was there with the kids. And we had like 35 years of Skins Games that I did every one of them in Hawaii and Palm Springs. All of a sudden, those came to a screeching end when the tour decided to have a wrap-around golf tournament, you know, schedule.
Right.
That was it, because all these were happening. It used to be at the end
Yeah,
of
it was
August.
the fluff season, right?
Right.
Yeah.
At the end of August, when the PGA Championship ended, that was it until the Tournament of Champions.
Right. So they had that off period. Like some of them were played before Monday Night Football. I remember that as a kid.
That's exactly
Some of them would
right.
come on like at 3, 4, 5 o'clock, and they were
exactly right.
these weird offshoots and playing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and-
Guys like Don Olmeyer, who started the Skins game with, a couple of other wonderful people that all came with ESPN and the NBC and ABC. We had the senior Skins games in Hawaii led into the Super Bowl.
Right.
I mean, that was unbelievable.
Right. I mean, yes, I remember that.
That was huge. And then all of a sudden, the players made so much money that the Skins games, if you won every skin, you won like 650,000. And they started going, 650,000. And I'm going to spend my Thanksgiving in Palm Springs or somewhere
Right.
after.
Away from the family.
No
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
I remember Curtis Strange telling me, Paulie, I'll do it for nothing. With all the publicity I got during the heyday of the Skins game,
Right.
all those guys just loved it. They didn't care. It was such an amazing event. So,
Could you see when the players started to make an exorbitant amount of money? And God knows they earned it. Could you tell like from early in those 70s when you got Chi-Chi and you got, Jack and that stuff, and then
without a doubt.
and then all of a sudden there's a shift in the 80s
No
where
doubt. And because what happened was we would have, for instance, on the Skins game, the defending champion would automatically be in,
Okay.
whoever won the year before. Then the winner of the Players' Championship was automatically in. Then the leading money winner, and then the fourth one would be the pick of the sponsor.
Okay.
That's how Fred and all those guys, every year they wanted him.
Right. Couples was great, right? Like
Couples was
sweet
great.
guy, great guy.
Great person. Just such personal friends. I love the guy. But Fred, could be either way.
Sure.
Know? I mean, but so can all of us. So it is great. But I love the guy. But anyway, so now we go. This is the perfect story. We go to the top money winner. No thanks. Next guy. No thanks. Get all the way down to like the 10th guy on the money list. Brett Wetterick. Great guy, but who's Brett Wetterick?
Right.
Love him. Love you out there, Brett, wherever you are. But we knew it was done.
That was the
That was the end of the Skins game. Because we knew that no one's going to really
right.
watch.
Who's gonna watch Brent? Right. I mean, like there's that. I mean, there was and it got even not that I want to say it got worse, but it got accelerated when Tiger came in
Oh, yeah.
in the 90s and when that late 90s when he make those runs on TV. That's when holy Christ.
What was great was that ABC was doing the Skins, and he had a contract with Disney, which was ABC at that point. They just changed, and one of the deals was, you got to play in 3 Skins games. And he really elevated it when he did.
Wow. Wow.
It was kind of weird because he never won one,
Right.
but he was great. And
He's always not been that type of player.
right,
It's very weird. Like he didn't,
great in match play and
Right.
all that.
but all that stuff against, he just didn't do well that way. So I
Right.
don't know if he was able to focus or lock in, but you got him in your hometown in Augusta, and man, he was a
Yeah.
laser.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well,
You got him at the U.S. Open up in
knows how to
Pebble or
play that.
something, and he
Yeah.
was.
he knows how to play him. And he had that killer instinct. In fact, the couple things, I'll just jump on that one more Skins game, and it was the greatest. So we get Annika Sorenstam to play in one of them. And in
I
that,
loved photographing her. She was great.
She's cool. I do her a lot still. I'll be in a few weeks with her out at Sherwood doing an outing. So they invite her. Fred Funk, who's one of the neatest guys in the world, had won the Players' Championship. Very successful Champions Tour guy, just the neatest guy. So you got Tiger on it. You got Tiger. You got I want to say Fred. And I know for sure Annika, and I know Tiger. So those 4 are playing. At the pairings party the night before, we're all sitting around, and we thought, wouldn't this be fun? Hey, and Fred was known as the straightest driver of them all, Fred Funk. And the deal was, Annika, if you outdrive Fred Funk on any tee shot, he's going to wear a skirt the rest of the match, rest of that hole. about the fifth hole, I hope I got it right. She out drives him. He pulls the moo out of his bag, puts it on. The greatest Skins game moment of all. It's in the book, by the way.
It's in there.
It's in there. I'm all over it. Again, I could go anywhere I wanted, thank God, at that point, because I worked for the people. I worked for the Skins game. And so I'm out there, and I'm just cranking on it, getting the greatest shots. We finally get to this is not a totally X-rated show, right?
No.
I won't say anything dirty.
You could, sure.
No cussing.
No.
I don't cuss. Anyway, so get on the green. He's got the skirt on, and everybody's dying. It's such a classic. Well, he bends down to read the putt, and across the green is Tiger leaning down as well. And he says to Tiger, "What do you see on this putt?" And he yells out, "I see 2 balls out." I'm telling you, on national television, it was the greatest with the skirt. I see 2 balls out. The place died. It was the greatest moment, I think, of Skins game history. The only other one that would beat it was when Trevino knocked it in on 17 at the stadium course,
Right.
Alcatraz, and he knocked it in and went crazy.
How did you keep your composure and not just fall over, die laughing?
I've had a lot of those cases, and so have you, where it's been hard to concentrate and push the button, when these people have put us in spots.
How was it, because you were really blessed in those 90s, where some of the legends like Jack were in their end. How was that like covering him?
It was so cool. He, with Jack, well, first of all, if he putted, I would tell the guys, don't even put the camera up to your eye. Count to 30 seconds, then put it up. He would take forever over that ball.
Oh, yeah, he would just
sit there and just hunch and just concentrate. And now, okay, you better get ready. I think he's able to pull the trigger. I mean, he took forever. And he, at these press conferences, thank God I was a photographer and not have to ask these questions, because he would look through you like he was looking a dagger through you. How dare you ask that question? I mean, I just go, oh, geez, Jack, but I've become such great friends with them. Like I said, in this thing I did, he and Barber wrote the introduction, and
how fantastic was
I
that?
know. Jim Nance did the forward. All these guys, your Lester's doing a book. We want to be a part of it. So it was kind of fun. It's called Beyond the Fairway, by the way, if anybody ever cares.
We'll definitely jump on
we
it.
don't need to.
When was your first trip to Augusta? That's kind of the holy grail of...
Right. It was 1995, so it wasn't that long ago.
Okay, but it wasn't very early in your career then. So it was later in your career.
It was. My first time wasn't until
When
19.
you weren't, yeah.
And the only reason why I did it is because up the street at Reynolds Plantation, I was covering the first match play, like Accentra deal, where all the top guys got in and then they eliminated them every day.
Right.
Remember they played those
Yeah,
all
they'd
over?
cut it down.
Cut it down to the end. They played 36 holes the last day. So I was doing that. And I got a hold of somebody, and I said, geez, I'm down the street really, a couple of hours. Now that I live there, I know exactly where it is. But I said, what do I know? I'm from Van Nuys. So I said, even though I traveled a lot. But anyway, so I said, okay, how do I get there? I got a couple tickets for you. I'm not using it. Oh, my God. No cameras, because, I wasn't credentialed. Right. And I just sat there and I watched and took it all in and every player that went by me was like looking at me, hey,
double take,
because I knew them so much from all the events, and they're like, and they see me sitting in the chair. God, I'm so glad you're having a good time, and I said I am, and so that was my first time.
What did you think of the course? Was it what you had hoped it would be?
Yeah. It was amazing. I remember that I was getting ready to walk in, and I had a white cup of coffee, and they, oh, sorry, sir, poured it into a green cup and gave it to you. You could not walk in there with anything but green. Nothing.
That is shocking, the rules they have
the rules. There. No running. Dress attire,
ropes, everything.
You can't put your kid on your shoulders.
No.
Nothing.
No. It's like being at church.
But I'll tell you why that you say that. It's very funny. I bet still to this day that I could take, how they run out if you don't know, but right when they get there, to pick their spots, they have these chairs that everybody can purchase, very easy to sit in. You could sit right next to the ropes.
Oh, you're right up on it.
You know it, right. So a lot of people, let's say you want to go to 16 and watch that par 3, that famous one, or whatever hole. You get there and you sprint to that hole as fast as you can walk.
Yeah.
And you set your chair down. And you can set it down, and I believe that you could set your wallet on that chair. And you could come back 3 hours later and your wallet will be right there. There's nobody would take a thing.
Yeah.
For fear of, being struck down the rest of their life.
Never being allowed back in church.
Well, that's for one thing, yeah. The karma, I'm telling you,
right.
everybody is.
But they're so sweet and nice.
They are.
Damn it was weird.
There's a lot of things, and of course, you can bring Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You can bring a camera and shoot away.
Right.
But then once Thursday hits, but you still can't bring Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday a cell phone.
No.
Even to shoot pictures with the cell phone, no.
Yeah.
And that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that no one realizes, and that's kind of a standard thing now, is how hilly it is.
Yes. That's something that people don't. TV kind of shows you think they're humps,
Yeah.
but you are up and down.
I mean, you're way up and down. If you're down on, let's say, the 13th green, and you want to go up to the very, very first tee, it is straight up.
Yeah, good
And
hump.
It's a good walk. And
Jesus.
but they've done such great stuff. When I first came in '95, there was like gravel. The parking lot was gravel, and if you were lucky enough to park there, it was gravel. Now it looks like a park. It is so gorgeous. The parking lot's gorgeous. All the practice areas that, of course, they had to elevate the driving range and put these giant fences up there. They'd be hitting them on Washington Road all day.
Right.
When John Daly came, the couple times he played,
He was banging them out of
he'd
there.
bang it right over, out into the street. So they had to
Okay,
elevate.
so like a guy like that, when he comes on the tour, what do you think of John?
Oh my God! Well,
I think I know people have their thing for him, like him or don't. I thought he was great for golf.
He's the greatest. I love him. I love him like a brother. One of the great photos. I'm telling you. And I'm not going to keep saying that, but it is there.
But it's true.
I
It's one
walk
of the
into
moments.
the press room. I mean, into the pairings party. We invite him on the Skins game because he had just won, I think, at the PGA.
Okay.
So we said, we got to get this guy to play in the Skins. And I walk in. I'm one of the first people in the parties. I'm the only shooter, so I like to get there early.
Right.
I walk in. He is standing there, Matt. I'm telling you, he's got a bottle of beer in his left hand and a cigarette in the two fingers holding the beer, like a college guy. You can just imagine it. He's got the bottle of beer, holding it by the top, and the cigarette in between the two fingers, just in his left hand. And I'm just like, this is the greatest. I said, hold it right there. Filled up the camera and banged that shot out. I said, that's the best one of them all. That's the classic John Daly, and just the greatest human being in the world.
Absolutely.
But
he was so yin and yang compared to Tiger, but they got along.
no, they did.
Which is funny because people would think like, oh no, like Tiger's so laser focused, he's straight laced and he's this,
Yeah.
and John's like this wild animal. But actually, when you put them together, they had so much in common. And Tiger respected John's game and back and forth.
One of the great people in the world, and one of the great guys at golf, Fuzzy Zeller.
Oh yes.
So he's like great friends with John Daly. So he says, John, I'm going to bet you, I don't know, $1,000 or a bottle of this or something. You don't make it to 50. Because you're not going to make it to 50 years old. There's no way with all the stuff you're going through and the cigarettes and everything. So we are I do a lot of Champions Tour, Senior Tour. When it first started, I did the first one. So that's great. I love those people, how it all started for me. So they get on the tee. He turned 50, and it was in Houston, Texas, one of the accounts, the Insperity that I've had forever. And he gets on the first tee, and they give him a birthday cake. They always do, when you turn 50. And here comes Fuzzy up to him and presented him like 10 $100 bills and a big giant bottle of something. And he goes, hey, bro, I lost the bet. You made it to 50. And then I think it was 50 that he won that event. It might have been 51, but no, somebody will know. It might have been. I think he was 50 when he won that event.
Of course he would. He would.
Oh, he would know. Somebody knows. But anyway, he's now 56, I think.
Yeah.
But it's great for the tour. You know, it takes the cart. So much fun, but really wants to play.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, as much fun as they are, when they get over that ball, that's their job.
Right.
And
Are you impressed now how these guys are so physically fit? Like when you saw the guys in the 70s and 80s, they were just looked like dudes. But now, these Tigers changed everybody. They're lifting, they're big, they're in shape.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how those guys did it. I don't know how they walked those courses and played 5, 6, 7 days, 5, 6 days in a row, you know, with practice and all
Right.
that. I don't know how they did it, but they did do it. And you're right. Oh, my gosh, it's a big change. It's a big change.
I mean, think about all
They were scared about doing it. They were
Right.
scared about, you know, who was the biggest guy? Who was the first guy?
Greg Norman?
How about another guy? How about a guy from South Africa? How about Gary Player?
Oh, right. That's right.
Which brings up a point. We're in some city across America, and he used to have, and still does, 1 million sponsors. I mean, you look on his bag, it looks like a NASCAR. He had
It's like,
everything.
yeah.
Had everything. Gary Player, including, by the way, not long ago. I can say all this to you. The Saudi Arabia on the side of his hat, on his shirt.
Right.
Now, the last thing, he was dogging the LIV thing left and right. So it was like, oh, really, Gary?
Yeah.
I love Gary, but, you know, hey, Gary
Yeah.
knows where his bread's buttered. So anyway, so we are on the tee waiting, and he's got hired by this company. I got hired to do the team photos. So as he came around to that tee, we would take a picture with every one of the customers and Gary Player. You know,
Okay.
it was a big deal.
Sure.
In between groups, Gary's like, okay, Paulie, we're going to do some sit-ups and push-ups. I said, what? He goes, yeah, we might as well while we're sitting here, because there's like, 15 minutes, 10 minutes in between teams. They come around. I'm down there doing push-ups, sit-ups, everything there was with Gary Player, you know, and I'm like, so I always know when I see him that I better be in pretty good shape, you know, because if I've seen him, oh my God, I've seen him dog some people one time. I love the guy. He is so great to me, you know, and just wonderful. But I saw him once playing, it was Pro-Am down where you are, actually,
Okay.
at Newport Beach Country Club. And they put him in with some big shot. Some man is a trillionaire, you know, and
Right.
he gets, oh, you get to play with Gary Player. Great. Well, he brings his kid with him. His kid's like 12, weighs in at about 2 1/4.
Oh.
You know, and he's got a Coke in his hand. A bottle, like a can of Coke. Sir, you see your child over there? He's got a can of Coke in his hand. You cannot do that, sir. You can't have him. And he's all over this guy. I felt like crawling in a hole. You know, I'm like, oh, God, Gary, you know, this poor. But that's how he is.
Well, so you and Gary didn't sneak off and have a cigarette in the bathroom during play?
Oh, my gosh. You remembered that one, huh? Still one of my great friends who I love to death, and he met his wife, Julie Crenshaw, at Riviera. He's down on like 14. He looks up on top of the hill, and there's this beautiful blonde in high heels, or heels, right? And he's like, wow. So they've been married forever, and that's Ben Crenshaw. So Ben and I, we're on the 6th hole, which is the hole at Riviera, the par 3 with the bunker in the middle.
Brutal hole.
Brutal hole.
Good Lord.
Paul, let's go have a Terryton. And he and I are smoking Terryton cigarettes in the bathroom, which is about 20 feet from the tee box, and we're sneaking cigarettes with me and Crenshaw. And I'm like, this isn't right, but as long as I'm here with Ben, what are they going to do?
Yeah, they're going to throw us out.
They're going to throw us out.
Like a chimney of smoke coming out of the
Yeah.
bathroom window.
Oh, my God. It was like, it's just yeah. I mean, it couldn't throw us out, but speaking of throwing out, we were with Ray Floyd and his wife, Maria, who unfortunately left us passed, and I loved her too, but she was tougher than nails. We're at the Skins game in Montalani, and there were 4 players, right? It was him and, Jack and Arnie and, let's say Chi-Chi. And those 3 guys got the ocean view bungalows.
Whoa.
And Ray was around the corner, not as beautiful. Maria goes, hey, guess what? If we don't get one of those ones that are looking like that, we're leaving. They only got 4 players. And all the advertisement. It's a Skins game. You can't say, okay, go.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to get the caddy master. You're the 4th.
So I'm guessing he got his bungalow.
Oh, he did. Oh, she was great.
Oh, Christ.
But yeah, those were crazy. I mean, the days now everybody's nervous. I love the guys on the tour, but it's different. And the LIV thing.
Yeah, I mean, what did you think when that came about?
Well, my first thought is, oh my God, 5 of our best troublemakers on the tour went over to the live thing. I don't got Patrick Reed anymore. I don't have Bryson DeChambeau. I can't look at Paulina Gretzky. It's like, really? Couldn't have taken some of these good guys? The goody two-shoe guys? But, we're looking for something for the little excitement. I love Max Homa, but when he wins a golf tournament, I'm not exactly getting all the craziness. But what I think about it,
I mean, they're giving out a lot of money.
Oh,
but
gosh.
it comes with the price.
And I don't think they want to get the points and all that. If they make it a 4-day event, then I'll listen to it. But a 3-day event, no matter what it is, a 3-day event, like someone said, well, the Champions Tour is 3 days. Well, yeah, it's been 3 days forever.
From the beginning.
It isn't like it, yeah, from the beginning.
Right.
So I think you got to play 4 days. Now, when I first heard the shotgun start, I'm like, geez, I feel like I'm doing the Roofers Union up in Riverside. I'm like, it's a shotgun start at noon. I better get there at 10:30 to set up. Like the celebrity tournaments and all the tournaments. A shotgun start, okay. Oh, by the way, Phil Mickelson, you're on 6B.
Yeah.
So I hope you
So
better start
weird.
now to get to the tee.
Do you think any of the things they're trying to do could make its way into the tour? Either like maybe it's going to 3-day or...
I know they've certainly bumped the prices on about, 15 tournaments or
yeah,
something?
they have gone up.
They have gone up. But, I don't know.
I mean, the amount of money
The
they
problem
offer
is,
Tiger.
you brought this guy's name up a few minutes ago. And that's the biggest problem. They don't like this guy, and this guy don't like them when I'm talking, and that's
Right.
Greg Norman.
Yeah.
And Greg has been that way forever, so they're like, okay, sorry. Now, the biggest thing now, and it's going to happen before we know it in April, and that's going to be are they going to allow him in the Masters?
Right.
That'll be the biggest. And Fred Ridley and his group will make up their mind there. And
If you were a betting man, what do you say?
wow, it is so tough. And I've been known to, not that I don't know odds and bet, but I that's a tough one. I don't know if the Masters is going to let those guys in or not. If the Masters let those guys play, that's going to set up the U.S. Open. That's going to set up all of them.
Right.
Because there's like 9 guys on that live tour that are winners.
Right. That are winners and have a legit shot of playing on those and winning.
Well, they're supposed to, be able to play the rest of their life.
Right.
Because they won. But the Masters are the kind of guys that can do anything they want.
Right. Little different there.
It's a lot different. And, it's like Billy Casper. I really like Billy Casper, and he was always nice to me. And he would say, hey, I'm a winner. He's, 105 years old. He can't play at all. He can't even walk for the first tee. But, hey, I'm a winner, so I could play as many times as I want. And he'd shoot, like 25 in the first 2 holes and quit. And walk off, go, I better not, I'd disqualify. and then so some guy that could have played in his spot, sorry.
Is out, yeah.
Yeah, because Billy said, it says here I could play as many times as I want. Then they started sending letters. They did. And they sent a few letters out like, love to have you at the dinner.
But-
love to have you hang around, go underneath the umbrella, come in the clubhouse, have a julep, whatever they have. But maybe not tee it up.
Were there any other sports in your career that you were thinking like, man, I would love to do some baseball or football or anything else? Was
The
golf
only reason-
satisfying to you all the way through?
Again, it goes back to the business.
Yeah.
I mean, that I knew that I knew I had if I went the other way as well as the pro tournaments, because they have pro-ams.
Right.
So I have a number of people that want what I have, photos.
Right.
And so I knew I could make a living. I knew that if I went and shot baseball, you became a team photographer, so you're getting corporate money.
Right.
Rather than some of the other fellas out there that I know that are
scrapping.
trying to get that one shot that they can sell to somebody.
Right.
So to tell you the truth, no.
Were there any photographers on the tour you were always happy to see? You know, because guys
Oh,
would
yeah.
come in and you
Oh,
might
yeah.
see like Walter or Simon Brody or
Yeah.
Fred or whatever.
Always
Yeah.
had fun with guys like Fred Vujic and
Yeah.
those kind of guys. And still do. You know, we have our own little group that were out there, and they let me in.
Yeah.
They let me in because they were their own guys working for Digest, working for Sports Illustrated, all those guys.
Right. And you're the corporate guy.
And I was a corporate guy, but they let me in because I remember so many times that we would go out to these events, all these different guys that like work for Digest, and they would say, can we follow you around because I've got to get the pictures, but I don't have the rap like you have.
Sure.
To be able to go up to Arnie and go, hey, we need to get these pictures together.
Right.
And they would be with me, and I would said, sure, you kidding me? Let's go.
Yeah.
Or how do I exactly work the flash at night for a party? And I would, kind of guide them there, and we were always friends because I've never been just trained in my life to ever be thinking that I was anything more than anybody. And if there was somebody that thought they were better than somebody else, and we knew that who were the great shooters. We knew who they were. We knew the guys that got the shots that you're like, wow, how do you do that? But you try to be always humble and nice and helping. And I always knew that I couldn't shoot at that level. I know I can't shoot at the level like you getting the photos I see you get. But I also know that I can get the pictures I need fast and the ones that are going to sell. I know Tiger will do anything I ask them to do. I know any of those guys because they know that I'm not going to take their time, but I know I need this picture.
Right.
Now, Tiger, can you give me a quick one? I need this guy. He's a pretty big sponsor. Sure,
Right.
Paul, bring him over. Boom, and he'll hit it, and he'll give me a big smile, and this guy is a hero.
Yeah.
And
How was it working
the
with
way.
him? Or when he came onto the tour, what was that explosion like?
it was weird because the first thing you had to do is get in with his dad.
Okay.
And when his dad and mom came, again, back to the first Skins game that we had him there, he had gone on a Sports Illustrated. They did a special thing on him.
On Earl. Right.
On
yeah.
Earl and on Tiger. And I remember they had him up at and I think in our press room, actually. They had a stack of them. And I told him, I go, that's pretty cool what they did. I went in and visited with him at where they were sitting, the lounge. Hey, great to see you, Earl. Paul, the photographer, great to meet you. And I sure love some of those. Well, I sprinted to the press room and grabbed like 6 of them and brought them to him. And from then on, it was like, okay, you can do what you want. I mean, to have Earl in the shot with him at a couple of different places just made it. And he was great. He really loved him. There's no doubt that he was, really into it with his dad.
No, they did have a special bond.
Yeah, like that one.
Yeah, exactly.
His dad at Bel Air Country Club at an event we did when he was like 15.
Kid.
So it's like, yeah. And Earl, so again, it was getting into with somebody that would help you get in with him. Then he and I, it's just been great. But I mean, he'll say stuff like, You know, like I'm telling you, he'll be with somebody and take a picture. He goes, okay, Paulie, let's do it. I'll take the picture, and he'll look right at me. Don't F it up. And he won't say F it up. He'll come right out, right there. And I'm like, oh, my God, brother, you know, you're with this guy. So if you can't take it, and your business too,
Right.
if you can't take it, you better get out because
Right.
they're going to zing us. The photographers
All the
are
time.
number one guys to
Yeah.
give the zinger to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you just go
Yeah.
along with
you
it.
You got film in that camera?
Yeah,
or-
right. How come the classic
Yeah.
is, you know how many pictures you shot of me? 9 million. I never seen one. That's always the greatest. I'm like, well, somebody must have seen them. I'm not getting paid for them.
Or I'll always I'm waiting to get a good one.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's a great line. Oh, that's a good one. I'm writing that down. I got to use that one.
When did you start to think like, okay, I got an ass load of photos. I want to do a book.
Right.
I want to do a book.
I think
Because that's a bold move. It's a lot of work.
It was. I think a lot of people had said it to me. Oh, I'll tell you. Duh. This is how the story goes. 1986, Jack had won the Masters in April.
And he was
At 46 years old.
He was old at 46.
Right. They thought he had no chance.
Right. He didn't.
The
really.
Frank Chakurian story is a classic, you know,
Yeah.
where he's with our guys and he said like, hey, you know, and they kept asking him. They said, hey, you know what? Jack just birdied 11. We don't need Jack. He's got nothing to do with this. You know, he's out of this thing. Jack just bird 13, and they just kept going. And he goes, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe we should hear about Nicholas. He's coming on." And then finally, it got to be, you know, where it was. So anyway, we're at this thing called the Centennial of Golf. It is the top 100 players of the world. I'm talking Ben Hogan's there. You know,
Everybody.
Byron Nelson, everybody.
The who's
We're
of
in
who.
New York,
Right.
in New York at the Waldorf Astoria. They do a Pro-Am the day before. It was the second win of Curtis Strange's 2 U.S. Opens in a row. We're in June in New York. We're dying. It's sweating bullets out there. But they get Ben Hogan to come. The Champions Tour had just started. So they want to ask all these questions to Ben. So they get him in this room, and everybody's nervous because it's a big TV show that night put on by Ohlmeyer Communications going worldwide with these guys. Sam Snead's there, all of them. So I'm like, okay, this is a couple of great ones. So that day, I'm doing the Pro-Am. I'm running around like a maniac. We're doing all the different pictures. I'm running in to do the press conference with Ben. And as Jack finishes his 18th hole, he walks in the clubhouse. Ben finishes the press conference. They're walking towards each other. They die. There's Ben. There's Jack. Both of them are just in awe. And I remember Jack telling me a long time ago, and I still remember it, Paul, you'll get the picture. In other words, don't interrupt. Hey, can I get this picture? Hey, can I do this? Can I get that? Wait till they talk. Wait till they talk it out, and then they'll look and I can get it. And I've always heard that about Jack. So anyway, they're going together. They're talking. They're in awe of each other. Finally, it's done. They knew they wanted the photo. They both look at me. I hit this shot. Perfect. Shot it with film. 1986. That's what I was shooting. Someone else might have been doing 1986 digital, not me.
No way.
I don't think. So I shoot it, hit it, comes out perfect. And then I'll go back to the other one. But anyway, so 3 years later, I get this picture. I make like 3 8x10s. I send them to Barbara in Florida, Barbara Nicholas. She calls me, Paulie, we have never seen these pictures in our life. This is the greatest photo ever. Jack's going nuts. Him and Ben Crenshaw, him and Ben Hogan. I'm like, really? I go, that's good. I go, and then I started thinking, I got a lot of them like this that no one's ever seen. And if they did, they really never seen them. So that's when I started, thinking, okay, let's put them together. And I just started. I remember I made a bunch of 3x5s of everything I could find. I went into my archives. I found slides. I found negatives. I found prints.
Did you find things you forgot about?
Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, which ones do I want? Which ones do I think I have a little story to tell? Which ones would people want? And then, like today, I gave one to this man. Today, I signed one. And the first picture he looks at, he goes, Billy Barty. And I go, yeah. I go, I'm glad you know who he is, because anybody that had anything to do with my career, one of the first tournaments I ever did was the Billy Barty Little People's Golf Tournament. And I got him swinging at a golf ball, little Billy Barty. And to me, that meant so much. So I put that in the book. So that night at the Centennial of Golf, everybody goes back to their room and they get dressed up. You know, tuxedo. Jan Stevenson's there. Now, Jan Stevenson was an Australian girl that was a great player, won a million things, but looked like $1 million. She did the commercial where she laid in the bathtub with all the top flight golf balls all over her, and her certain areas were kind of showing.
Did you take that photo?
I did not, darn it. But I do have it. Anyway, so...
I have an 8x10 right here.
I think I have it. So this is classic. So now everybody that night, you know, everybody's scared that if Ben's going to walk out, you know, because Ben had that attitude. Now, again, I broke the ice with going up to him and going, I'm Mr. Hogan. Earlier in the day, I'm Paul Lester, Buddy's kid. And those 3 words have gotten me so far, Buddy's kid. And they all, oh, Buddy, we love Buddy. He used to come around and we'd watch him at the nightclubs and all this. And I went, so I'm in. So he's in the middle. People are still like, oh, my God, they're treating him with kid gloves, whatever we do. If Ben Hogan walks out, we're dead. The whole show's gone. Jan Stevenson looks like $1 million. She comes, her hair's perfect. She's got a dress with the showing, you know, and unbelievable. Jan comes up to me, Paulie, I'd give anything to get a picture with Ben Hogan. And I'm thinking, oh, God, all right, I'm going to ask Ben. This is the end of my career. He's going to walk, you know, everything. I go up. I said, Jan, hang in there. Mr. Hogan, Jan Stevenson would love a photo with you. Where is she? Bring her over, Paul. Just like that. If it was anybody else that had said, oh, maybe later, he brought her over. I took these pictures with her. For the one that we used in the thing was them looking at each other. I have one where his eyes are straight down. Straight down. I'm like, I can't use that one.
No, Ben, no.
But she looks so good. And I see her all the time. And she's, I have that picture on my wall forever and ever. I mean, it's Ben Hogan.
Yes.
So that's how it really started. So then I put together these 3x5s.
When did you start? What year did you start?
It was actually about 2000. When was that? Whenever that, at the beginning of that epidemic deal.
Okay, 2019, 2020?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Because I had time.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there because they shut everything down.
Yes, you had nothing to do.
I figured that was it, you know. So I went into all the archives I had, and I started, because I had prints on the wall, we took them to this lab I used, and they shot the prints. I said, just give me a digital thing, whatever you can. Put them together, and I went to my friend Bob Cisco, who I knew, who actually had a radio thing. And he said, yeah, I'll help you. I went to like 2 other people, and they were like, okay, maybe. And then I thought, okay, forget it. Cisco loved it. I flew to Tampa where he was. I brought all the pictures. I brought my little stories, and he sat down and went through the whole thing. So I thought, who would I want if we do it? And then I spent it all myself. You know, I self-published it, self-put it together, paid everybody, the printing. The guy that put it together did a phenomenal job. And I'm just like, okay. And then my Brenda's daughter-in-law, her daughter-in-law, worked. She was the Augusta Chronicle, one of the editors. So her and I went to that Pandera, or one of those, whatever you call it, the sandwich place. We sat there.
Oh, Panera Bread.
Panera Bread.
Yeah.
And we sat there like 2 nights in a row and closed the joint. And she would look at the 3x5s and go, "What about this?" And I'd say, "Okay, well, the story I have on that was," and I would tell a story about it. And she, wrote it down so fast. And then we went to the next one, and then we cut those down.
Okay.
Then we cut the rest down, and then he'd call me. Bob Cisco lives in Tampa, and I was in L.A. at the time, and we're 4 a.m. I'm talking to him. We're going over every photo. He goes, I don't know about this one. I go, God, I really like that one. I got to have it. You know, it's a Doug Sanders. You know, guys like that with him dressed, you know, looks like a peacock. You know, I said, I got to have that one. It's Doug Sanders. I don't care if people know him or not. I know him. So after we did all those kind of photos, we just kept cutting them down, and then I was able, and then he goes, well, who should we do get to do the introduction and do the forward?
Right.
I thought, well, I'm pretty good friends with Jim Nance, and when I called him and asked him, he wrote a thing that just like blew my mind. I mean,
Shocking.
It's shocking.
It's a beautiful, well-written
What he
piece.
wrote was like,
Oh my God.
he says, I've been with all the people in the world, but when Paul Lester walks in the room and he's shooting and I know that, I'm like, Jim, are you serious? And then I called Barbara. I knew I could call Jack because I'm like one of their kids, according to them. I called Barbara Nicholas. And I go, Barb, I know you've never done this stuff before, but would you do the introduction? Jim Nance did the forward. And she and Jack wrote the introduction. It's a small thing about, whatever. I figured I might as well get those guys. And that was basically it. So it took a while, but then I wanted it to be a softback, but a nice softback that had a hard cover and something that somebody could just take. And so now it's basically has presidents, it's got ladies, it's got celebrities, it's got the big three, it's got a whole bunch on Payne Stewart.
That's one thing people forget. How many presidents play golf?
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of presidents in your career.
Yeah.
In front of you swinging the stick, because especially in Palm Springs, that's where a lot of them used to go out and vacation. So many were out there.
The one that was classic was the 1995 was the first time that a sitting president played in a PGA Tour event, which was Bill Clinton played in the Bob Hope Classic.
Yeah, and that was a big deal.
It was a big deal. We had Gerald Ford and we had Mr. Bush, Senior Bush, and they all played. And I'll tell you, better had a hard hat that day. Those balls were flying, man. I'm telling you. And they came up and put this little pin on me. They said you could go anywhere you want.
That's
I've had a
Secret
few of
Service
those.
pin, yeah.
I've had a few of those, and I'm like, really? Okay.
Did you get to keep it?
No,
Yeah.
I had to give it back.
Yeah, a lot of those you have to give back.
I don't think they ever told me to keep it, but it was kind of fun. But,
Yeah.
They're all different. Some are different. Bush Jr., he does
W,
a lot of
right.
W. I done a lot of stuff with him. That you probably have too, maybe. You have to leave your cameras at the room they're at.
Yes.
And then leave. And then when you come back, you can't bring anything with you. And they bring these dogs in and sniff everything from, if it's a musical show as well. Everything.
Yep.
So he's a little more different.
Yeah.
Barack, who I've done, I was at a deal at RTJ not long ago, which is pretty private, and a lot that's over there in Manassas. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the people play there. A lot of the those kind of guys, that are in politics. He was great. He just walked right by me, and hey, how you doing? We started. I'm like, okay, and then finally his guard guy comes up afterwards. How you doing? I'm like, geez, because some of them it's really tough.
Right. Yeah, they're really on top of you.
Yeah, they're really on top of you. Which hey, but
I expect it. You're the president or former president.
that's right.
Yeah.
But like Mr. Trump, I haven't ever. I photographed him a lot as playing golf, but not as a president playing golf.
Okay.
At one time.
Yeah, because he's got golf courses and he's been playing for years.
Yeah.
And
so
he's had events at his course.
This was way before he was in politics. So we're down in Palm Springs, and I'm doing this deal, and it's the Howard Cosell Day with the All-Americans. Now, this guy got everybody in the world there. The All-Americans were all these guys that played, was All-Americans at different colleges, and they'd bring them in. I mean, they had Whitey Ford, they had Yogi.
Jesus.
They had everybody was the biggest, DiMaggio, so that was another part of my life. I was the photographer. the only photographer. I was so lucky. I'm so blessed in my life. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, I think to myself, I go, oh my God, how lucky I was. But anyway, the bottom line to it all, like you too, no matter how lucky we are, I guess we still have to produce.
That's it.
Because you can talk your socks off, but you better give them a good picture.
Damn right, yeah.
So I'm there eating dinner at the table, or eating breakfast. We had just started, hadn't started yet. I get there, we got Donald Trump, we got Al Davis, we got Spanos, who owns the Chargers,
Yeah.
the guy that owns the Raiders, Donald Trump, and Joe DiMaggio. So I'm like, I got to make this picture.
That's a lot of
So
egos.
A lot of guys that, you know, yeah.
Holy moly.
You talk about the boys.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh God, okay, I got to make this picture. So I start walking towards him, and Al Davis said, Trump, who is this guy coming over here? And thank gosh, my boy bailed me out. DiMaggio goes, it's Paul, he's with us, it's fine. And they told me, come on over, and I took that picture.
Whoa.
Thank God for DiMaggio, or they would have.
Yeah, you would have gotten the hand to be sent away.
just like that,
Yeah.
or shot or something.
Where did he know you from, DiMaggio?
From the tournaments.
From the tournaments.
And that's another thing. This is great, Matt. DiMaggio, who was a couple of different times. He loved the LPGA, loved playing in them, played at the Dinah Shore a bunch. The Dinah Shore had more money than they could count back in the days with Nabisco.
Yes.
Right.
Oh,
So they had millions of celebrities, everything. It was just big time, and it was well worth it because they had every single vendor there that sold and then when RJR, right? They came in with them. Mm-hmm. So they had every vendor that either sold an Oreo or a Winston
Nabisco,
cigarette.
anything, yeah, anything,
right.
yeah.
Anything. So it was huge.
And they would have that all out in the press room.
Remember that?
Oh my God, it'd go
You
home
remember
full.
it? Good.
Oh yes.
Good. Just pile it in. You could get
Yeah.
4,000 Fig Newtons, as many as you could eat. It was unbelievable. I remember them. And cheese balls.
Yes,
You know, they had
yes.
that one too.
It was like-
Planters Peanuts.
I went home with so many planters.
It was
peanuts.
unbelievable.
Oh my God. I was never hungry covering
know.
that.
So they had hired this big time robot. I mean, that's been cost $1 zillion, but it was a robot, an official giant robot, and the guy would stand behind the starter's tent and talk into the thing and go like, okay, the next celebrity's Andy Williams. Let's hear it for Andy. And this thing would make the noise, and here would come him. Well, DiMaggio comes over to me, Paul. You tell that guy if he says anything about me, I'm walking. He was without a doubt the most laid-back, nervous Ned in the world, Joe. A couple of times, we're at an LPGA event in L.A., I'll never forget it, and he had finished the day. I was getting ready to walk into the award ceremony, and he comes over, can you walk me over to my table? I don't want to walk in like I don't know where I am. And I would say, sure, Joe. And I walked him in. I go, here's your playing partners, Joe. And then everything was great because he'd sit down. So he and I became fast friends. And
With DiMaggio.
DiMaggio, man.
Holy crap.
In fact,
I mean, that's the gold standard
That was
in
pretty good.
baseball. That guy's just money.
yeah, he was unreal. And but you know, it was like
And that's another thing, too, is how many other sports athletes, football, basketball, baseball, want and do play golf all the
yeah.
time.
they love to play. You know, they just love to, no matter how they played and if they played good or bad.
Yeah.
They played.
Look at that.
So you know, I some reason I got lucky. I was just friends with them, and I never bugged them. And if I had to come in, and they knew I would never sell a picture.
Right.
You know, they knew I'm not work for the Inquirer.
Right.
You know, they knew that. So, you know, whatever I do, you know, they're not going anywhere. Because I've gotten some pretty good photos.
I bet.
Yeah.
Bet. But you've kept those to yourself.
You're not kidding.
If you look back on your career, are you just shocked the way it's turned out? Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
I couldn't do it now.
Yeah.
I can't do it now. So I'm glad because there's no more of that silly season like we talked.
Right, right.
So there is no more. I'm lucky that I was there in the heyday of all that. I was there with Arnie.
Right.
I was there with Gary. I was there with Jack. I was there with Gary Player and Chi-Chi.
And the rise, you saw it
I
going
saw-
like
yeah.
a rocket.
Well, the senior tour is the one that I got lucky on. Because those were the guys that started that whole thing back in there. And now, because I wasn't around when Arnie, won the
right.
61, U.S. Open or whatever he did. I really wasn't around then. So, those days, I don't know. Like, I didn't see Ben Hogan play golf,
Right.
but I saw him after,
Yeah. You saw him just stare at beautiful women, which
for sure.
not a bad thing.
That was classic.
Is
What
there
a classic.
Is there one photo you wish you could have back you missed and you're like, damn it, that one. I wish I could still have that one.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. There are. I think the ultimate one that you just miss is like maybe if a guy made a hole in one, and you heard about it, and you got there late, because like we were talked about, you're in a golf, you're either lucky or you're not. How
Right.
can you be everywhere?
Right.
You got no shot, So
And this, the worst sound is
Yeah.
a roar on the other side of a course.
That's right.
You hear that gallery explode and you just go,
Yeah.
what did I miss?
what did I miss? I
Who
know
hit
I
the
missed
eagle?
something good. That's right.
Who hit the hole in one?
That's right.
Oh my God. Especially
And-
the eagle. The eagle's the one that's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, someone must have just crushed a ball.
The funny part was Chi-Chi, his big deal was the sword dance, where he'd bring it
Yeah.
out with the putter. And we would just go with him because he was making birdies, and every birdie he made, he'd go into his act. Well, then as the years went by, it was every par he made, he went into his act. We're just, come on, make a par. Because in the late days, my brother there was shooting 80s, 89s, and it was a shame. But now on that Champions Tour, I don't care who you are. If you don't keep that score, that scoring average, you lose your card.
Yeah, you're gone.
So
And it's competitive.
in those days, that was the deal. Okay, so did you want to see, I'm just going to throw it out, do you want to see D.A. Weibring shoot, 69, or do you want to see Lee Trevino shoot 84?
Yeah.
And they made it a competitive tour, as they call it.
Right. You had
And
to.
that's what it is now.
Right. As much as you love to see Lee and all those guys,
Yeah.
you had to make it competitive. It couldn't just be hanging out with the guys.
Right.
Had to be like, okay, we got sponsors and money. They want to get into this. It can't just be a bunch of buddies.
When Golf Channel came along, which is great because almost all the guys that are in that all started with what I started the first day ESPN started in 1979. They were a big part of that whole group that we had. I like Golf Channel. I really think it's great. But at that point, the only way you could really watch a lot of golf is if you had Golf Channel.
Right.
And a lot of people didn't. If you had ESPN or they were doing it, every place you went, every restaurant, every bar, everything, there would be the shot of the day, and some tournament somewhere and everybody had ESPN.
Right.
So
That's where you wanted to catch it.
that was kind of a start of a whole new deal. That was the start. Some good, some not so good. And they took it away because everything that they wanted to have went to the Golf Channel. If it was those Skins games at the end, the Golf Channel got them.
Right.
Because first of all, they were looking for content.
Sure.
And sponsors could afford it better than trying to buy commercials on ABC or NBC. It costs a lot of money.
Right.
It was great.
How many more years you got running around on the golf course?
I think I'm doing pretty good now. Now, I don't know if before I got 2 hips and 2 knee replacements. I'm like a new guy now, but you're right. I couldn't walk 10 feet before that happened. I would have been done. Every day I walk out on the course. Today, I was walking along, I'm running over to the green, going downhill, uphill, and I'm going, I could never have done this a year ago. A year ago, I was done.
You're dragging.
I couldn't. I couldn't even go. I was limping. I was everything. So those definitely set a new thing for me. I mean, I had a couple of guys that's worked for me, that's helped me. that were really good that are no longer around. They decided they were done and I lost them, and it was tough. So it's hard for me to be everywhere. And I find myself at the ripe age of 73 carrying this stuff like you carrying all your wonderful equipment just now. And sometimes I think to myself, what am I doing? Where's all my people? Where's my schleppers? Where's my carriers? What am I doing? What am I doing? I want to be able to walk on the course, have them hand me the camera, have it all set up, loaded, all the batteries ready to go, the lenses. Here you go, Paul. And never. You got to do it all still ourselves.
Yeah, it's all right. It
It
makes
is
you a
all
better person. You got character.
I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything. It's been so great.
You got any other great stories you haven't told me? I mean, God, Lord,
Oh, my God.
there's a lot of people
There are.
over those years, and golf is a very story-driven kind of thing where they're sitting next to each other, they can BS, but once they get to that tee box, it's serious.
Well, I remember one time with Arnold, now Arnold was known to, women loved him. He was a great-looking guy, and they loved him. I never saw anything. I know
Arnold's Army, right?
I've seen Arnold's Army at these dinners that I did, and they went that way, and I went the other way. When the dinner was over, I saw them all leave. I'm like, nothing happened. Arnie wouldn't do that, Because when he was married to, his first wife, he was gone a long time. That was his heyday. But then when she passed and he married Kit, he just loved Kit. No matter what pictures I'd shoot, and he'd always say, "Get Kit in here, Paul." And I'm like, and she'd go, "No, get her in here now, get over here." He wanted her in every photo. In fact, there's the one with the president and him, and Kit's in there. Mm-hmm. So he wanted her in there. But one time, we were in San Antonio, Texas. Senior tour had just started. He was on a par 3, and he's waiting for the green to clear. Some guy during the tournament, over, "Mr. Palmer, I would give anything for an autograph." And he goes, "I'm playing right now. I'll meet you right afterwards. I guarantee it. I'll do it." Okay. So he's still waiting. The guy walks over here. Here comes a lady. "Mr. Palmer, I'd give anything to get your autograph." And I'm watching this, and okay. He pulls out the pen, signs the autograph. He goes, finds the guy. "Come here, sir," and signs his autograph right there. And I'm like, that's Arnie. He couldn't say no to the girl, but then he couldn't say no to the girl and do it and then dog the guy. It was classic.
His legs didn't look as good.
Oh, my God. No. But he was that kind of guy. I mean, he was all business. He was all business to me. I mean,
he was one of the first golfers that understood there was sponsorships after and during golf.
There was this GTE, which was a company, right? I don't even know what it is now, but it was a communication company, big time. He was there was his sponsor. So we're up at some place, and this is a couple of great ones. So we're up at this place, and there's a long line of these GTE guests. And he walks in the room and looks at me, "Okay, Paul, what?" And in his own words, "What the F are we doing?" Except he used the word. I'm like, "Okay, Arnold, here we go. See these people? They're all sponsors." I go, "We're going to take a picture with each one of them. When a good-looking girl comes along, I'll fumfa around with the camera a little, give you an extra second to talk to her." And he goes, "Oh, that sounds great. Where's the Kettle One?" So here comes the Kettle One. Gets a couple pops of the Kettle One. He's ready. He's
good to go.
He slaps his hands together, rubs them together. "Let's go." And I knew he was ready then. So here we start doing the line and everything, and they're coming through, and they're just melting because it's Arnold. Arnold says, the lady comes over about halfway, the waitress, "Mr. Palmer, would you like another Kettle One?" She goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, but don't throw away the ice. It's already broken in." I'm dying. I go, "That's the greatest line I ever heard, King." I said, "That's the best." And then, so we get through the line, but he was great. But to us, it was business,
Yeah.
When do we start? When do we end?
Right.
And he was great. Jack, on the other hand, they loved each other, and they really do. But Jack always wanted to be and always was known as and always will be the greatest golfer ever.
Right.
Arnie put golf on the map, let's face it.
Right, yes.
But Jack, how many majors? 18? You know, whatever it is, if you go by majors, he's the greatest. So we're in Hawaii doing this senior skins game deal with Wendy's. They were the sponsor. So there's a ton of Wendy's restaurateurs, as they call some of these people, own like 15 Wendy's restaurants. It's big time. So we're over there, and Arnold Palmer says, you know, I'm getting everybody. My job was to get everybody with the 4 people.
Okay.
And, you know, I would tell the people, okay, we'll walk this way first. We'll go get Gary Player. So I'd go up, hey, Gary, I got to take the pictures with the sponsors. Oh, sure, Paul, no problem. And he'd get up there and start dancing with them. I mean, he was the greatest. And then there was other times Gary would look at me, no photos tonight. And I'd go, okay, fine. Because if I wasn't around, then there was no photos. It was before there was 9 million cell phones they could take pictures with.
Sure.
Now everybody's got them. They don't even need me anymore, which is a good thing. I'm ready to quit anyway. No, I'm only kidding. So here we go. We get everybody. I get Chi-Chi. I get Jack. I get Arnie. I get Ray Floyd. I go over to Jack. I go, Jack, you're the last one, and the party's going to end soon. I got to get you. And he goes, I'm not going to do it, Paul. Just jacking me around.
Okay.
You know, I'm not going to do it. Barb gives him a hit in the shoulder. Paul, get up. He's got to get the pictures. He looks at me. He goes, did Arnold already go? I go, yes, he did. He goes, okay, I'll go. He would not go till Arnold went. We do this thing in Texas, and on Saturday, I'm telling stories that people are going to hear this, and I hope they don't get mad at me.
No way.
But I'm telling good stories. They're out there. We got this, they call this Legends. They got the greatest players in the world at this Insperity event that Jane and Brian do. They're unbelievable bosses and great friends of mine. So, again, they all come out from the locker room, and they walk out, and the crowd goes nuts. They walk out on the driving range. Place goes nuts. Here comes Lee. Here comes Arnold. He comes out. Jack wouldn't come out until he was the last one to come out.
Jesus.
And then Jack would walk out. So, you know, he's the greatest player ever.
That's it.
And, you know,
He's
might
the
as well be
king.
the last guy to be on.
That's it.
And he was really great back then. So Chi-Chi, talk about stories. This was crazy. We're in Houston, Texas again, the home of Mr. Bush. He's running for the second term, and it's after the 9/11 thing. So who's playing in the tournament? Rush Limbaugh got invited to play. Now you're in Bush territory, so I don't have to tell you which way everything's going.
Right.
So here we got, you know, Rush. And, you know, hey, it's Rush. He's playing golf. How cool is that to have him in the Pro-Am? No matter what you think, you know, it's Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, it's cool.
In fact, he asked me, I don't have any teas. I said, I'll get you some. I went and got him a handful of teas. There you go, Rush. So it's right outside the press room.
Okay.
They had a press tent. And the driving range, this was the other course we used to play. And now there's tons of people around. There's Rush Limbaugh. There's Arnold, who he's playing with. There's everybody around, and they're, you know, talking about politics because this is in October. November is the election.
Oh.
And Gore's trying to run against him.
Right.
Right? Here comes Chi-Chi. Hi, Chi-Chi. Good to see you. And Arnie's there, and Rush is there. And he goes, you know, Rush, I'm not going to vote for Bush. You could hear a pin drop. We're in Houston, Texas. You know, everybody's just like, what? And he goes, yeah, he lied about mass destruction. And we're all just like, oh, my God. Well, it's on the cover of the next morning's newspaper. Chi-Chi was never invited back.
Really?
Yeah, never. And frankly, that was the end of it all. And it wasn't just so much, but it was just like, you got to keep the politics out of there. If Rush Limbaugh's there, he's just a celebrity playing in the tournament.
Yeah.
But
He's not doing his show at that
right,
point.
But when he said that, so it was just like, I remember that story, and it was like, you know, a little rough. But
wow.
Some of those guys are great. I mean, Doug Sanders, who I love to death, he was, God's gift to women. That's how he was. I mean, everybody will tell you the stories. In fact, the pro here and I, Bob, had talked, and I have talked about it, Bob Harrison, at length, because he used to hang with them. So we're in Sacramento. Senior tour had just started. He's in his heyday, too, as a senior, turned 50. And they said, hey, we're gonna make this thing really good for you. The sponsor's a lady that had a beeper company. That's back in the beeper days.
Jesus.
Right. So they go, hey, we're going to do a great thing, and we're going to have, whatchamacallit, play with you. I just forgot his name again. Doug Sanders. Because we're going to have Doug Sanders play with you. You're going to love it. Good-looking guy, all this. He gets in the cart with her, and I'm following them around, and they're coming up after 9 holes. And she looks at the tournament chairman. If you don't get me out of this cart right now, I'm pulling my sponsorship right now. This guy's all over me. And I'm like, oh, my God. I'm like, oh, Dougie, what are you doing? You're blowing the whole thing. You keep your hands to yourself. There's plenty. Back in those days,
it was wild.
My gosh.
It was wild.
Everybody. Nowadays, everybody, hey, well, that goes around with everybody.
Sure. I'm glad we were able to hook up
so
and do
glad.
this. Your book is fantastic. I appreciate you, sending me out the book, and I got it.
It was so great because I always admired you so much for doing what you do. And when you used to honor us to come to the golf tournaments, and give the baseball
It was always
a break.
my pleasure. It
was fun.
Great. It was good.
We had a good spread.
Absolutely.
Once in a while.
Absolutely. It was fun. I wish I could cover more golf. I always really loved it, especially when, you run into Darren Carroll and JD when those guys are running around with Golf Magazine.
They still are.
Yeah, that was good stuff back then.
It was.
We had a great time. Dinah Shore, stuff at Newport, going up to Riviera, LA Open, all that stuff.
It really was.
Yeah.
It really was. And it's not like it used to be because there's not nearly those many guys.
Yeah.
First of all.
Right.
There isn't a guy for every magazine, which there aren't any, and there aren't a particular guy that covers just that event. As far as reporters, in fact, Davis Love said to me, why are these guys asking me these questions? I said, well, the reason why is because they're doing the high school basketball last week and they're sending them on the PGA Tour event this week.
Right.
They're not guys that covered the golf every week because they don't have them anymore.
No, it's not.
So,
it's not that way. He's doing a high school game on Thursday, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday, he covers you.
Right.
And that's it.
He doesn't know all the insides, so, he tries.
No. And then on Tuesday, he's going to do city council meeting.
That's exactly right. It's whatever they have to do.
Yeah. Thank you for setting this
so
up.
much.
This is absolutely stunning.
Good
this
spot.
view. The cookies are great.
Get a cookie?
Paul,
That's why I got to watch myself on those cookie deals.
you're the best, my friend. Thank you so much for doing
Thank
this.
you. I love you, my brother.
All right,
Thanks
you're the
for
best,
having
man.
me.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Paul. You could find his book, Beyond the Fairway, on Amazon. If you like the episode, please click the like button and become a subscriber to the show. You can follow the Just a Good Conversation podcast on Instagram, and you can find all of our past shows at the website, justagoodconversation.com. Thank you for listening.